Hi there, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and blog. Today I have card number 6 in my Encouraging Cards series, and this one uses an art impression stamp from my most recent Joann's haul. And I know the cats won out, but I was already in the process of using this elephant twist ties, and so I figured I would just go with it, and so here we are. So when you open up this stamp, you're going to want to hang on to all the pieces. Obviously, it comes with a stamp and a couple of dies, and the packaging has all the instructions that you need. And you're going to need a 9.5 inch by 5.5 inch piece of cardstock. And as the packaging tells you, you're going to want to score that at 2 3/4 inches and 7 inches. Well, I didn't have any 12 by 12 paper lying around, so I did end up using some watercolor paper because the watercolor paper I have measures 9 by 12. And so I'm using my Score Buddy to do my first score, and the reason I'm doing that is because it does have the 2 3/4 score line. And now I'm going to do something silly, and I'm going to grab my Score Pal because that actually has the 7-inch line. And now you could easily do this with your paper trimmer and a bone folder. You wouldn't need to do what I did, but I'm just showing you there are other options. And so once you get that all folded, you'll see it has a gatefold, so it kind of overlaps a little bit. I'm placing my cardstock, which happens to be Canson's XL watercolor paper that weighs 110 pounds, and I'm placing that into my stamp platform to line up my stamp. And according to the package directions, you're going to want to stamp the left-facing animal on the very right edge of the left panel using the like a L, and you're going to use that as your guide, but you're not going to ink up the little L portion, or the little partial square, if you want to call it. And so once you have that all lined up right on the edge, you'll ink it up, and I am using some Versafine Onyx black ink because that's waterproof. And then I'll flip my stamp platform around, and I'm going to do it with the other side, and you're going to do the exact same thing, except you're going to line it up on the other side. And you, like I said, want it to be right on that edge. And again, grabbing the Versafine Onyx black ink, I'm going to stamp on my image, avoiding the little half square, and then I will stamp that down. And once the ink is dry on those images, I'm grabbing my Mijello Mission Gold set of 36 watercolors. And I'm using my black velvet silver watercolor brush, size 4, and I have watered down my ink, or my watercolors quite a bit actually, because these watercolors are highly pigmented. And so I want those watered down simply because I want to have a light wash, because I plan to come in and add my shading later. So I'm using one of the blues, and I, like I said, have it watered down pretty well, and I'm just putting down a light wash. And I'm going to let the other elephant dry while I paint this one. And you can see it's obviously very flat, the color is, and that's fine because I'm going to heat that with my heat tool so it's good and dry, and then I can come in with the second layer, because I don't mind the harsh lines here when I'm trying to add my shading, because obviously these elephants are going to overlap. And so, and you can even use the packaging. The packaging does a pretty good job of showing you where you could put some of your shadows. And so that is what I'm doing. And watercolor, like anything, is one of those that while you're going, it doesn't necessarily look good, at least in my opinion, but you just got to keep working, and then you'll eventually start to see what you're trying to get at. And so I will let those dry, and in the process I'm going to add a little bit of the pink to his ears and to his cheeks. And I probably should have done this when it was a little bit more wet, so that way I wouldn't have had such harsh lines. But live and learn. And then moving on to the other one, which he's significantly lighter than that first one, but that's because he's going to be overlapping the little elephant with the flower. And I'll grab some reds and some yellows, and some green, and I will color my flower, letting those dry in between so that I can add shadows as well with that. And now comes the magic. You're going to do the die cutting. And with this one, you want to make sure, since I used watercolor, I would want to make sure that those images are very dry, because I have to run this through my die cutting machine, and if the paper isn't dry, it will tear. So I'm just using some low tack tape. In this case, it's micropore tape, and I'm lining those up perfectly with my little elephants. and they're right on the edge. And then I will run those through my Big Shot off screen. Those images are just a little too big to run through my SSS Sidekick. And as you can see, there it is. Isn't that so cute how they just kind of interlock like that? Well, I don't like that little white the white edge there, so I'm going to cut those out freehand on both sides so that it looks like those elephants are completely overlapping. And so there it is. Oh my gosh, so cute. And it was really, I think it was pretty effortless. Well, I'm going to make a mask because I plan to do some ink blending on the background, and so I've grabbed some Simon Says Stamp masking paper, and then I will trim those out right on the line. And then I can take off the release paper and stick those over my elephants so that I don't ruin the coloring that I just did. And I am using some Distress inks, and I'm going to start with some Forest Moss just to lay down some shadow, and then I'm going to use some Mowed Lawn, and I'm just going back and forth, and I actually don't really care that it's getting on the back because I plan to back that with another piece of cardstock to make it even sturdier, but you could very easily just use some Post-it tape to stick that down to keep it from getting all over your background or your back. And then I'm going to just keep switching back and forth, and now I've grabbed some squeezed lemonade, and that's where I'm going to just go around each of the hearts, or each of the sides of the heart, to almost like it's, I don't know, maybe a sunset or a sunrise is what I was kind of going for. And then I will grab my worn lipstick and blend that right in to the squeezed lemonade, and just going back and forth like I always do. If you've been to my channel at all, you know that I tend to like ink blending. And then once I get that down on both sides, going back and forth with the squeezed lemonade and the worn lipstick, I'm going to grab some broken china, and that will go all around that pink and kind of almost make a little bit of a purple in some of those areas. And then I'll go back over it with the worn lipstick again, and then that'll finish off my ink blending. I couldn't resist tapping some water on it for the water droplets. I mean, it is Distress ink, and so I'm just dropping water all over the top of that, letting it dry just a little bit, and then I'm going to run my paper towel things right over the top to get that look. And I'm going to peel off both of those masks pretty carefully, and then I'm actually going to save them. I'm going to stick them right on the packaging so that I can use them again later. And then once those are folded over, take a look at how cute that is. For my sentiment, I have run some Neenah classic cardstock through my little Xyron sticker maker, and I am going to use the Simon Says Stamp Painted Hugs die to die cut that about 3 times because I want it to be a little bit thicker. And then I will run those through my Sidekick, my SSS Sidekick. And running that cardstock through the Xyron sticker maker makes those automatic little stickers, which is great because these dies, although not super intricate, can kind of be a little bit of a pain. You could probably use liquid glue just fine, but this is pretty fast too, so I didn't mind doing this. So I'll take off that release paper on all 3 of those, and I'm going to get those, just stack those very nicely on top of each other so that they'll be 3 deep. For a final bit of embellishment on my die cut, I am using the Nuvo Aqua Shimmer pen in glitter gloss, and I'm just putting that all over the top so that it'll have a little bit of shimmer and shine. You won't be able to see it on screen, but that's what it'll do. And then I'll take the release paper off that and stick that down, and that will finish off this card. I love how they interlock. It's just such a fun card. I can see myself making plenty of these, and so I did. I have 2. That first one with the white was like kind of a prototype just to see how it would work out, and I really like how that worked. I just thought, oh, so cute. And you know, like I've said before, I'm not super proficient in watercolor, but I like the way these turned out, and they were so fun to make. So if you liked this video, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. I will definitely be making more cards with these Art Impressions interactive stamps. So as always, thanks so much for stopping by.